100 years ago, the Olympic movement adopted the motto Citius, Altius, Fortius. Faster, higher, stronger. Those three words in equal part, a call to arms and a way of life, have come to symbolize what the Olympics are all about. They go faster, prancing on the hockey turf at such high speed that all you see is a blur, shuffling quickly across the badminton court in a bid to outfox their opponent, sweeping aside their rivals' feet on a wrestling mat with such deadly precision, almost like crocodiles going for their catch.
Higher. We look at the women who look primed to take India's medal tally higher. Manu Bhakar leading the 21-strong shooting contingent, Manika Batra and Srija Akula desperate to challenge the Chinese with their flicks and tricks. These athletes and their sports are key to India's double-digit medal ambitions.
Stronger. Now meet the athletes who are stronger than them all. Mirabai Chanu lifting the iron twice her body weight for fun. Nikat Zareen armed with a charming smile and gifted with a Thor's hammer of a fist. And that sight of Neeraj Chopra mustering all his strength to fling the javelin farthest than everyone else.
Hello and welcome to the Pod of the Rings, where every week leading up to the Paris Olympics, we'll take you inside India's preparations. This week, we go faster. So Vinayakk, I'll come to you first because you were in Bangalore with the hockey team just a few days before we record this. How was the mood there? What's happening?
Hey, yeah, quite confident, I would say these guys were. I mean, of course, it's difficult to gauge from maybe 1 hour of training how things are going. But yeah, Fulton was busy working with the forwards on the outcomes, which is spoken about quite a bit, in the circle, playing slightly bobbling passes into the danger area and getting his forwards to finish on the bounce, not the regular ground passes. They had a tube and tire setup over which they kept lobbing the ball. And, it was all fast and furious for about 1 hour. It wasn't a red session, I think. It was slightly lesser intensity session that day, the day I was there. I mean, the key to them is going to be starting the tournament on a fast note. If they're slow to get off the blocks, the first 3 matches, any defeat or any draw could be disastrous because they play Belgium and Australia back-to-back in their last 2 matches of the group stage. So if qualification is still up in the air for quarterfinals, before that, it's going to be a big problem like we had discussed earlier.
I mean, we've included hockey in faster, but Vinayakk, it might have been in higher as well, right? Given the way Indian hockey team is now playing. And I'll be very interested to see if they continue that whole aerial ball. It's very much like those 90s and early 2000s English football team, or the English Premier League, where you could just see the ball being lobbed from one end of the pitch to another and then just hope the strikers do their thing. It's a novel thing which India have been doing so frequently at high level. I mean, at the Olympics, who knows what works, but was there a lot of aerial passing as well in training?
That day they didn't. At least the 1 hour that I saw training, they weren't doing any aerials. But Hardik and Fulton did speak about how it's become a big part of the modern hockey. And I think it's not just India, right? I think we saw quite a few teams use that in the Pro League as well. Even Belgium, Germany, all of them using quite a few aerials. Australia too in that 5-match series that we saw. I think it's become a part of a modern game where, when opponents are in zonal, you see an opportunity to create probably a penalty corner outcome with an aerial because of the rules as well, which are, slightly tweaked these days, which frustrates teams, in terms of receiving an aerial and then a foul being called if the defenders are too close. It's a rule that is being exploited, I guess, by quite a few teams. So yeah, I mean, I think a lot of teams are playing aerial balls and India have shown an inclination to do a lot of that in the Pro League that we saw.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mihir, I think you mentioned, how it will be interesting to see how the Indian team plays at Paris. You were somebody who was there at Tokyo, watched the team go to one of those high spots that they had fallen out of over the years. One of the reasons we kept saying was the AstroTurf and all of that. What do you think that the Indian team has kind of changed over the last couple of years, even from that bronze medal winning Tokyo games? And how is it that the speed has come into the makeup of this Indian hockey team? Because we know, I think Vinayakk already spoke about this, you already spoke about this, that they have these red sessions where they are dipping so deep into their reserves of energy that they are almost seeing, I guess, spots. They are very close to throwing up. They don't even have energy to stand sometimes after the red sessions. So how has the team kind of become use these training sessions to become faster in a sense?
I'll in fact, just kind of go give the other side of the argument. The biggest change in this hockey team the last 3 years is that they actually aren't as counter-attacking as they were perhaps at Tokyo. I don't know if Vinayakk agrees with me over here, but the basic thing here is that the way Craig Fulton has kind of set up his team, it's more about, I wouldn't say being defensive, but taking care of the defense first. So earlier, for example, if what you saw with the Indian team in the Tokyo cycle, till the Graham Reed era came to over in January 2023, was that you get the ball in your own half, you put your heads down and you just run forward and launch a counter-attack. Broadly, that's how what India played, counter-attacking hockey at its best. What Craig has done now, he now kind of sets up his team mostly in a half-court kind of a press. It's not full attacking press all the time. The players are a bit behind the ball, so to say. And when India kind of get the possession back, only if there are passing options up front do they go full throttle. Else they'll just pass the ball amongst themselves, wait for the gap, wait for the right pass to be played inside the D. And when that's there, you see their gears shifting, at a very blinding pace. Some of the goals that we saw India score in the Belgium and the England leg of the Pro League recently, some of the field goals were spectacular because of this, because they kind of, played the ball smartly in the midfield, and then it was just one or two through balls and tap, and you had a goal, or at least a shot at goal. So they've become smarter in the way they are kind of controlling the ball, using the ball. I wouldn't say that I necessarily like that way of playing. I think, that they're playing not to their inherent strength, but that's what Craig wants, because eventually it's the defense that's going to win you medals at the Olympics and at the World Cups. So that's his focus area.
Yeah, I think I completely agree with Mihir that the mantra that Craig works with is, defend to win, right? That's kind of what he said is his philosophy when he took over the Indian team. Yeah, so they're very focused on the structure and control first, and then when the opportunity opens up, they go with a quick passing, counter-attacking game. It's going to be interesting to see how it works out, because it's, like Mihir said, it slightly goes against the grain of, a typical Indian hockey mindset. But yeah, if they adapt well to it, we've seen it work in European teams. So let's see if India can slightly go in that European direction.
Yeah, true. And Amit, from where you see, you also saw the team at Tokyo and how they kind of, especially the Germany match, we saw both, right? The Australia thrashing and the Germany comeback. From there to now, what is it that you like about this team? There are plenty of things that we can kind of pinpoint and say ki ye cheez achhi nahi chal rahi hai. And, we can kind of make an entire series out of that right now of what's going wrong with the team as well. But what's your assessment?
I think there's a lot of stability in a sense in the team. In the past, we've been used to hearing about the Indian hockey team always being in a state of flux, there's no stability in a sense, because there'd be players being put into the side who've not maybe stayed there for long. This time we have the crux that has stayed from maybe Tokyo. You have all your Srijesh's, Manpreets, Harmanpreets, who were all there at Tokyo. I think the football team usually like to talk about the spine of the team, right? Jo constant rehta in the center. So we have that in a sense, maybe staying consistent. And I think we also don't have a lot of, maybe there is, from my vantage point, maybe I don't know. But ye factionalism and all the drama that you would usually have with the Indian hockey team in the past, that at least it's not there on the surface so much. So those are things that are clearly working for them. That was also something that we saw at Tokyo, and hopefully that continues at Paris.
Yeah, true. Stability is of course a key point here because of the team selection. It totally reflects that. And before we move to our next sport, that's badminton, just a quick, it's tricky and we won't get into the whole prediction game, but Vinayakk, if we were to kind of, look at India's path towards the semi-finals, it's going to be extremely tough. You mentioned earlier in the episode of the group stage itself being so tricky. Start against New Zealand, I think, and then end against Australia, if I'm not mistaken. So the two trans-Tasman teams. Usually New Zealand, after the World Cup, I guess many people will be nervous. And once you play kind of Belgium and Australia to end the group stage, depending on where India finish, they might be up against the Netherlands or Germany in the quarterfinals. And those three matches back to back, it's going to be extremely painful for the players, I guess. I was just going to say for us to watch.
Exactly. I thought that's what you were going to say. If they hopefully start well in their group, Argentina, New Zealand, Ireland, absolute must-win matches. And if they do that, and somehow if they can maybe avoid defeat against Belgium and finish second in the group, I think that's probably their best path to the podium, so that they avoid Netherlands and Germany in the quarters if who will finish first or second in the other group. So if they finish third, they're going to face B3 will face A2. Yeah. So finishing third could be a problem. I mean, of course, it's better not to face Australia or Belgium in the quarterfinals because they are in India's group. So that's all right. So they need to finish second, hopefully, and have a decent path to the semis. And from semis, I think it could be anyone's game. So that's probably their best path to the podium.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, anyway, I don't think even like either of the teams on the other side, Germany, Netherlands, Britain, I think are favorites for the podium there.
Yeah, actually.
So, I mean, it's not going to be easy anyway. And you don't really expect any matches to be easy over here, but it's like sounding ominous already.
Right.
So get our all defensive mechanisms out. But we'll move to badminton now. And Amit, I mean, we have it in faster, but I think the person that we'll be starting about, PV Sindhu, hasn't really been that fast of late, has she?
Not really, Mir. But then I think that's one of the things that comes with age and the rigors of what father time, mother time. I don't know which one of the parent time does to you on your body. But still, she has one of the fastest smashes, just like Satvik and Chirag do on the circuit. Obviously, when it comes to badminton, I think jab Vinayakk beta hai, to I think best to throw the lob to him for him to smash it, na? Vinayakk, we take it that you've been observing Lakshya Sen training also in Bangalore right now?
Yeah. That was yesterday. Had a chance to, yesterday when we were recording. Yeah, that was a chance to see what he's up to. It wasn't wasn't a very high intense session like the hockey team, but he's added Korean coach who used to work with him in 2022, Yu Yong-sung, is back with Lakshya for a short term. Apparently, he reached out to Indonesia, or slightly before that, to come back and help with. Actually, it turns out they want a little more doubles influence on Lakshya's game, not just his singles routines. So the team decided that they need to up the intensity, up the pace. Actually, perfect for the faster episode. They want to inject some more pace into Lakshya's end game. So that's kind of where Yu has come in. And speaking about PV Sindhu, the one thing that is going to go in her favor is probably her fitness, which is ironic given her fitness troubles in recent times. I think if Sindhu is at her peak fitness, and there is a very good chance that An Se-young is not 100% with her knee. We haven't seen Tai Tzu-ying at all in the recent times. She's had a very tough year injury-wise. Akane Yamaguchi has struggled like anything. Karen Marin is probably here or there in terms of fitness. So if Sindhu is 100% fit, she could have an edge over the others. Right now, Chen Yufei and An Se-young are the favorites. But, I mean, if Sindhu has to pull off a miraculous third podium, I think it'll have to come down to her fitness and, like Amit said, the pace of her attacking game. That's going to be very, very crucial.
Let's focus on Satvik Chirag, because I firmly believe they are one of our biggest medal hopes, dare I say gold medal hopes at the Paris Olympics. The last few weeks, we haven't really...
Mir, one second. Now that you already said this, if anybody has any pieces of wood lying, please touch it. Let's not jinx this. I'm not superstitious otherwise, but no risks, please. Sorry, Mir, please go ahead.
Yeah. We haven't seen a lot of them in the last few weeks, probably huddled up, giving all the finishing touches to their Paris prep. Vinayakk, just on them, the pressure, the expectations and all, I mean, it's a part and parcel of where they are right now. They don't seem kind of blokes who will be bothered too much by that. Even if they are, I don't think Matthias Bo, their coach, will, allow them to get too flustered with all the talks about the medal. But it's one thing to be on the circuit every week, every second week, and kind of winning and losing and all. Now it all comes down to this 2-week period at the Olympics, right? Just how tough is it in men's doubles to be in the medal bracket and to actually kind of finish on the podium? What is their path going to be like? What will they have to do?
I mean, it's one of the widest open categories right now, Mihir. So that's, like you mentioned, the pressure aspect, I think they're okay with. They have this big game mentality in terms of their records of just going into finals and winning finals in the past is indicative of the fact that they are not faced by pressure. So that is a good thing. But the field itself is just so so wide open. Anyone can beat anyone on their day. Probably like 5-6 pairs in the world who could easily be occupying any of the spots on the podium, right? I mean, there are no outright favorites. Satvik Chirag have been world number one in the last 8 months or so in patches. There is the Chinese pair, Liang and Wang, who are current world number ones, who probably are the biggest threat in terms of possible final for Satvik Chirag. Aaron Chia, Sohik from Malaysia, who have troubled Satvik Chirag in the past. Indonesians are always tricky in men's doubles. It's going to be tricky in terms of the field, but I think pressure-wise, they should be all right. And I mean, when we talk about men's doubles, it's all about the pace, right? It's all about the speed of play. You rarely see rallies that go into 10, 12 shots. It's so much happens in the first 3-4 shots. It's a blogger's nightmare. I think men's double is just so fast and furious. Yeah, and they have to be good in the service situations.
Thank you for that, Vinayakk.
Exactly. It's all going to be in the service situations. The first 3 shots, it determines a lot of how the men's doubles matches go. So yeah, I hope they prepare well. I hope preparations I'm not worried about. I'm just worried about fitness. If Satvik has been a little injury prone, Chirag had his issues too. So just hope they're fully fit. And if they are, like you said, one of absolute medal favorites from India.
Yeah, and we haven't had many people in the past whom we can very confidently say that they're medal prospects. Just I think we can count in single digits, So, I mean, let's see what happens there. How a draw, I think, will again play a very crucial role, I guess, in badminton, as it always does. And the other sport where draw actually will play a huge role, Amit, is wrestling. It's a sport where India has been winning a medal every Olympics since 2008. The build-up, let's not even get into that whole drama. अगर जो वो करेंगे तो पता नहीं क्या ही हमें कितने साल लग जाएंगे वो पूरा ड्रामा वापस रिकैप्चर करने में, बताने में क्या हुआ. And of course, we have Antim and Anshu and Aman Sherawat. But the real test and the real storyline here would be in the women's 50 kg category, and that of Vinesh Fogart.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mihir, I think our listeners would do well to understand one French word. If they need to learn one French word before Paris Olympics, it has to be that word, repechage. Jo, matlab, call it a second life. I don't know what it means, but yeah, second life, I guess.
Second life, of course, yeah.
Yeah, so it is a second life that has led to us winning, 4 medals at wrestling?
Yeah.
So, kahin na kahin se, it comes as even if Vinesh kind of falters in the early stages, there is still hope. So, those kind of things, so, like, I don't know, matlab, drama to hum capture shayad nahi kar paye, but then repechage is always around, I guess, for people like Vinesh, even if they don't need it.
Yeah, true. And it's important to note that because of, the whole protests and the fact that Antim Pangal qualified in 53 kg category, which is Vinesh's pet weight category, she then dropped down to 50 kgs, a lot faster weight category because you have the lightest weight wrestlers competing here. Japan and China among the most dominant countries. So for Vinesh, the task is cut out there, and not just, her opponents. It's also for her that she has to be inside the 50 kg weight limit category. Her natural weight is 56, around that much. So she has to kind of lose 6 kilos just for those 1 or 2 days of competition, depending on how far she goes. And Amit, that is going to be her biggest challenge, to make the weight.
Mir, obviously making the weight, and I think Vinesh has traditionally struggled with even cutting weight for her actual weight class. So ये तो बहुत ही ज़्यादा struggle होगा.
Yeah.
I remember one of the world championships he was competing in, that I had to watch in like 0.5x speed just to understand what that Japanese woman did against Vinesh to get behind her. And it was like a whole feint. Like she was going left. Vinesh reacted before Vinesh could realize what was happening. The Japanese girl went right. And next thing you know, she's behind her. Like wrestlers like Mayu Mukaida are exceptionally quick at that level. Thankfully, she's not in the same weight class. But that is going to be the challenge in Vinesh's event particularly.
Yeah, and
Mihir, I just wanted to check your opinion on this. I believe firmly, we talk about draws all the time on, quarterfinals and whatever. Like, hopefully we get easier draw and all that. I believe that in wrestling, it's the opposite. If Vinesh manages somehow to draw Yui Susaki in her quarters, and, that's probably her surest way of ensuring that she gets repechage. Would you agree?
Of course, I think that would be one way of looking at it. But I'm sure that, if you're hedging your bets already and you're aiming only for bronze, then you might as well not end up with anything in that sense. So I don't know if that will be a smart strategy. I've not seen actually how Vinesh's weight category is panning up. I was just kind of glancing through the 53 kg weight class and the way seedings could be. I think, there are better people in better position and better understanding out there. I'm sure they'll correct us if we are wrong. But in Antim's weight category, she might just have a very, very clear path to at least the semi-final, because the way seedings might work out, given the current rankings, both China and Japan would be on the other side of her draw. So if, you're looking for kind of to pick favorites in wrestling, Antim already had a great reputation, and I think the way the draw might work out, things might get a little easier for her, because I think the only big wrestler she'll have to face, I think, is this girl from Sweden, Emma Malmgren. And I think the only bout that they might come across against each other is the quarterfinals or semifinals. That's, of course, depending on if, everything plays by the seedings and the draw. But in Vinesh's case, it'll be fascinating, if she and Yui Sasaki, they come across in the first round, then at least, she will have a second shot. And given the way Vinesh's storyline has gone so far, in the last cycle, second chances, she's grabbed them pretty well.
Yeah, that would be a fitting narrative.
But Vinayk, just to add to what you were saying, how some of the wrestlers might actually like to meet all the top guys in their part of the draw. I think in wrestling we see this more particularly than any other sport, that these guys seem to be happier when they win bronze and terribly disappointed when they win silver, because we saw this with Ravi at Tokyo. Like, he came straight from the podium ceremony and his medal was somewhere deeply in his jacket, and we were like, why is your medal inside? Aren't you happy? He almost gave it away to us. So he was like, but final haar gaya.
I think it's a very Ravi thing, not a wrestler thing.
No, not a wrestling thing. That's true.
Yeah, it's just the way Ravi is, I guess. Difficult to spot him smiling. Yeah. Hopefully Aman gets a good shot.
I think that's all the time we have for this week's episode. We would like to cover all these sports in depth. Maybe we will as the Olympics get underway. We'll be covering hockey, badminton, and wrestling, the three sports that we've kind of touched upon, given you a broad kind of outline of how they'll play out. We'll be doing a deeper analysis as the games begin and the matches come closer. Next week, we will be looking at the women who are kind of expected to lead India's medal charge and propel India to its highest ever medals projection. At least that's what the hope is. Thanks for listening to Pod of the Rings. This is me, Mihir, Amit, and Vinayak signing off for this week. We'll be seeing you next week. Thanks for listening.
You were listening to Express Sports by the Indian Express. This week's show was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar and produced by me, Shashank Bhargava. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it. Share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at Express Podcasts and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.